humanoid was not the...
It was already the first tasks. They didn't really compete because they could just barely walk. Yeah. But they had already the challenge to at least shoot a ball into the goal.
With the humanoids?
Yes, with the humanoids.
And the simulation league, I guess.
Yes, and altogether there were a few hundred teams there in these different leagues and so on. And we were in the mid-size and small size. And in small size at that time we were Foo Fighters, the Free University of Berlin in Germany. Okay. And the person who was really strong in that, the head of the group was Raul Rojas. But then Sven Behnke, he took over and he is now in Bremen, and he made a few winnings in world championships in robot soccer, also now in the mid-size league and also in the now bots. But what was really cool was, besides us 100 teams of researchers, there were 40,000 Japanese audience members. I was so surprised. Wow. They promoted that really great in Japan. And children from all classes around Japan, they came to that event. They liked that much more than some real soccer games or baseball games. So this baseball stadium in Fukuoka was full with students. And when I came out, I had to give autographs.
Oh, that's so
cool.
It
was really
it's you and we have the table tennis player in Sweden as well. I lost my name, by the way. He's called the Tree, right, in China.
Okay.
China. He's really big in China,
okay.
Okay, so cool. You became like a star already.
Yeah, I was a little star, but later I went then 2009-10 to Fukuoka another time for half a year research stay as visiting professor. Yeah. And then at that time, I went around to other places in Japan, and I realized that almost everyone who does a little bit interesting stuff is treated as a star, at least at that time. We are very different, especially in these more remote areas like Fukuoka. Yeah. It's a bit, rare that there is someone as tall as me coming. And
how did it go, by the way, in RoboCup during that?
Yeah, we were the second in the small size league at that year. So
pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Well, sometimes we won, sometimes this time we didn't win. But it was not because of me.
and please remind me, the small size had a central computer.
Exactly, there's a central camera on top and the central computer processing everything. Yeah. And the robots, they have almost just a small antenna to receive commands and then they're moving.
But still no human, of course, that's controlling
it.
It's autonomous, but with a centralized computer that control everything.
And what we tried, that was really funny at home, we tried to play against the robo team. So we with controllers, like when we tried to steer the robots and so on, we never won.
Really?
So already back in 2001, it was very hard to beat our own robot team. And nowadays, even in other leagues, it's becoming very difficult.
Was the Sony AIAW League still available then?
At that time, there was an AIAW robot, and it was the first time that this Honda humanoid was announced and having a big, small dancing celebration. Yeah.
Is it the Honda robot that is used in Linköping?
Linköping.
Or the
Asimo is the name of that one.
Asimo is.
This
is the big one. Is Asimo?
Exactly, big. It's 1 meter 40 or something like that. But
I'm not sure. You mean with Fredrik?
Fredrik. He has Asimo, and he had what's the small robot? Is that?
It's probably that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We had another person from Linköping University, and he had the robot with him that was about this big.
That's looking more like now.
Yeah. Yes, it's more recent. Yes. Mm-hmm. So probably not exactly the same, but it's probably similar.
The one step higher, I think, is one bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. So the small size league, and then you had the mid size. You competed in that as well.
Mainly in the mid size, and the mid size had also central control, but only Wi-Fi was allowed, and that was quite tricky actually. Yeah. Most of the difficulty was to get the Wi-Fi signals when the other teams were competing, and there were a lot of other sensors and emitters. This radio noise was the biggest challenge.
Do they have the kind of scuffle wheel kind of thing?
Yes.
Well? Right.
And they had some local control and then the global team control and only local vision, so no camera on top, which is looking over the whole field. And so at that time, we still struggled with actually realizing where is the field, where is the goal, and is this now my goal or is it the opponent's goal?
That's hard enough.
Yeah,
I still remember in 2001 when I watched that in a mid-sized league, they had this couple wheel, turning really fast.
Yes.
And usually, if it hits the ball, that's fine.
Yep.
But sometimes they hit the opponent as well,
Yes.
and then the opponent just flies out of the court, basically.
We had at that time. That was in 2002, as you corrected me. Yeah. We had a team from Philips in the Netherlands, and they had really strong and robust and almost like, at that time there was no weight regulation, so super heavy bots, so you could not easily.
Like have you robot wars in
the
UK?
These
that's remote control. It's not AI stuff. But they are really, strong.
And we were so scared of that when they came close. Our robots, we really worked hard to make the avoidance working surely well. Later, they had some regulations on the actual size and weight, because there was only the height. And I think some maximum square, and Philips used it fully.
Cool. So you had a connection to Japan from early on, and then you were just like last week ago.
2 weeks ago, we had the Mirai meeting in Japan.
Mirai.
And Mirai means future in Japan. So I was looking towards the future, what will happen.
Yeah.
And we discussed a bit how can we collaborate. Of course, we discussed already for many years how can Japanese and Swedish researchers collaborate, and we do some small collaborations, but it was really thinking about strategic collaboration findings. What's the need? Where can we improve? And what we did in this event, so there are several technical groups, one focusing on aging, one focusing on aging. Yeah. How do we deal with the aging society
of human
of human
aging population?
Yes. Okay.
And how and I'm not sure if you know that, but in Japan the life expectancy is even higher than in Sweden. So they have 86, so they're dealing with that problem already for a while. And of course AI plays a role. Robots can support elderly people in care and so on. But the issues then is how does that play together when we have robots taking care of elderly people? How does the society react? Is that actually ethically okay? Do we want that? And an interesting outcome during these discussions was the elderly people who are in need of help, they typically mind less than the daughters and sons of those people who find it a little bit strange that a robot is taking care of their beloved ones instead of humans.
So the target audience, so to speak, of the people, they actually like the robots?
Yes. Yes. And not all of them, of course, but there is a tendency that you have more like-ins, much more than half of them, and specifically more in Japan than in Sweden.
Is it just for social interactions, or can they actually help with different tasks as well?
Many tasks. We have also here in Sweden in Luleå what we call the activity lab, where elderly people or people who need help, they perform their tasks, like they want to reach for something in the highest drawer somewhere, but they cannot reach it fully. Then the drawer comes a little bit down so that they can still reach it. And also when they're cooking, the AI robots are kindly helping. Of course, they don't do the whole cooking task, but they maybe remind you if you forgot something, or they just really give you the ingredients which are needed, depending on the stage of support you need. Awesome. But that's, of course, research state at the moment, but it's really nice to look at the Human Activity Lab up in Luleå.
Yeah, Luleå Activity Lab. Awesome. Okay, so you were there for this kind of, I guess, more generic conference in a different type of fields.
It's called Research Innovation Week, and had overarching sessions where we openly discussed how we can in different fields collaborate. And then they had specific sessions, and I was mainly in the one related to AI, of course, where we can collaborate in AI. And as you know, Sweden is foremost in innovation, and Japan is even more foremost in adapting innovation. So it's
Can you please elaborate a bit more? In what way is Sweden
foremost in innovation? If you look in international innovation indices, Sweden is typically ranked in the top 3. So
interesting.
Compared to population size and so on. But also if you look into the digitalization of the society. I come from Germany, and I had the feeling when moving to Sweden, I moved like 20 years into the future and
Really?
in the things, how things are handled, right? We have a central registry for medical issues. Of course, some issues are not tracked there, but most of the common things I don't mind to share, like my address, that's actually publicly available for everyone. But these are things you would still not find in Germany, and they are fighting for years to get a kind of central register. So I went to a doctor, and I had a small medication I had to take against a minor flu, not COVID at that time, but and then I waited in the entrance hall to get my receipt, because normally in Germany you wait to get a printed paper with some writing of the doctor, which is unreadable for the pharmacists and so on. And then after a while I asked, will I not get something? He said, no, just go to a pharmacy. Which one? Any. I was really surprised. Wow, that's working. My person number is helping me for so many things. And in Germany, there's so many processes. When you want to do something in the bank, you have to sign physically everything. I was working in a company who was making signatures a little bit more, how to say, sustainable, that we don't have to print papers 5 times for the customer, for the bank, for some third party, for the archive and whatsoever. But to have it just printed once, and that was already a revolution in Germany. And here in Sweden, I have my mobile bank ID and most of the stuff. Just the initial contract I have to sign once, but the rest is all going.
I don't think about that as a Swede much.
No, so and you can discuss digitalization, and sometimes we look at some very advanced companies, but when you look at society at large, how it works, it's very interesting to hear this, and it's not until you actually move into another society and culture, I think you realize this. I mean, like I take another fantastic innovation we had with Swish.
Yes, for sure.
So Swish is like, I think it's the most...
When did it start? Can you let me know?
I think is it more than 5 years now? About 5 years, 4 or 5 years? And basically it's a project that was coming out of the 4 major banks.
Right. So but it has to be longer than 5 years, because I joined here more or less 4.5 years, and it was already everyone used Swish.
But the penetration of Swish was almost instant. Insane.
Okay.
So good tech with an intuitive, clear user interface works. And there are so many learnings with the Swish project. First of all, you could have tried to sort that out the governmental way.
Yes.
Would that ever have worked? No. So a tech project in, I think very much led in SEB, but together with 3 of the other banks, they used to put it out there. They sorted it out, and then they sorted out the bank ID. So there was some core problems. How do we do identification and signature?
Yeah.
How do we do this? And
could you Google that when Swiss started? Because I don't believe it was just 5 years ago.
No,
it has to be at least 6. Sorry, business.
Yeah, and I
because I know already when I was back in Germany, 2014, we spoke with some central.
2012.
You see, that's 10 years ago. So, because 2014 we started discussions with some Bundesdruckerei, which is kind of a trustee agency in Germany, to establish something similar, and they were pointless in a way. So I don't know if they came something out.
But okay, so it's been such a part of our fabric for so long now, so we don't even think about it.
Look at the data. December 12, 2012.
Wow.
12.
Oh yeah, it's very close.
Yeah, but one of the main learnings with Swish, I think you can take as a profound learning for anything, is that to have real usefulness, make something super simple, super clear.
Yep.
There are many opportunities that someone could have started adding features and making it, now we can do this and this and this. And then someone had relentlessly kept to the focus, no, we do this and we do this really, really well. And it's a one-click process.
Exactly.
And then you can be very advanced behind the scene, but the way we interact with technology is completely intuitive. Yeah. And I think that is a profound learning, I think, how we build systems overall.
This is more or less a killer use case.
It's a killer use case.
So when I was back in 2005 doing my PhD, I worked on handwriting recognition and was quite good in that. We can talk about that later.
Please.
But
Yep.
But then when I came to DFKI, the German Research Center for AI, I was doing research on how to make use of handwriting recognition. And I was thinking, what could be the killer app? What could be the killer app? And of course, note-taking for students when they are in lectures, they take their notes and they share notes with others and so on. That was really a great use case, but it still required a lot of features. So it took quite a few years before finally some applications in that area come out. And I think they're not so widespread because people are used to also just type. With, I think, this swipe keyboard, I'm not sure if you're using those. These are much more efficient than typing. And since they came out, you don't need handwriting anymore because it's almost the same. I personally still like handwriting, but that's another point.
I should do it myself. Let's get back to your PhD, etc. soon. But so in short, we can say that Sweden actually was in the forefront of innovation at least at that point. But Japan, then, what did you say? They were great.
They even adapted more quicker. So if we looked at the big picture, and the big picture of Europe, and we have of course US and Japan or Asia, China. There are many players. But let's now, in USA, technology-driven development, let's just run and see if it fails or not. Europe, very cautious, I would say, very thoughtful. Should we do their driving, especially when it comes to trustworthiness and ethical AI, really forward? And sometimes it's hindering development.
Yes.
And on the other hand, Japan, the society really looks forward to collaboration with AI. When you have a sign, careful, there are robots around. It's not about, be careful, there could be an AI which damages us. No, it's about, be careful, be mindful of them. There are also robots as well. Exactly.
Don't hurt the robot, it's the opposite.
And so this society, they have already robots standard at bigger conferences. You have some robots where you do the registration with, you have interaction with machines in various ways, and it's really a standard way of life. And here you have these threatening movies which are always in our mind.
The Terminator.
Robots,
and
Robot and whoever.
But what do you think? They have had I think it's so ingrained in their culture, all the way down to manga. So there's something else there.
It goes even back to Shinto.
Yeah, Shinto.
In Shintoism, everything has a kind of, there is a god inside, or you could say it has a soul. They have a different meaning. It's hard to understand for European what that actually means.
Could you frame Shinto a little bit for us?
So there is Buddhism, which is more also lived in Japan, but more like also in India and China. You have a big Buddha, and you have the gods, typically one, but then they have many incarnations of Buddha. And Shintoism is really a Japanese religion where each and everything counts. So there are gods everywhere. Even in a stone, there is a god. Even in a rice corn, there are many gods. So never leave a rice corn when you eat in Japan your rice. If you like it, please eat up everything. And because if not, you don't appreciate the gods. So also the thing, the robot, has a kind of God or soul inside. It's totally differently.
So very deeply rooted in their beliefs or the value system is that we can understand things in a very, very different way.
Yes. But we shouldn't now make it equal to human ethics and so on. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
But everything has a value, and seeing the value in your can, in a stone, in this chip, before I eat it, I say, itadakimasu, thanks very much for me being allowed to eat it, and now I will do that.
Goran is directly got spastic. But it's interesting because this means the mindset, the starting point for adopting things is completely different.
Yes.
Completely different.
Yes, exactly. And so we can learn from each other, and we can inspire each other, because just doing everything, adopting everything is also a bit dangerous, tricky, and not everything might influence a society as one would like it to happen. And there's of course also a lot of research in different universities. I know now some in Tokyo where they look into when robots are in the environment, human-like, many adults don't even see. Like there's a robot in a cafe, like you now on your notebook, taking notes. Most people who pass by buying their coffee, they don't even realize that it's now a robot and not a person. And the only persons who still realize that it's a robot are the kids, who are maybe still more exploring and understanding the environment. But many adults, they probably don't even mind.
Super interesting.
So the impact of what robots do, and also when you have VR environments, how our brain works when you are in VR, but you might not know that you're still in VR. So they made experiments where you have a VR headset on, and then they kind of imitate that now it's over, now you see the normal world again, but you actually still see the VR, but you don't know it. And then you see a glitch, and then you become a bit of...
This is the Matrix stuff.
And I think this kind of research is very interesting to see what's happening, and these people subscribe beforehand, yes, it's okay that's being done and so on. But there are nowadays quite a few ethical issues behind. We learn so much from these kind of experiments, but it's hard to run similar experiments in Europe.
Just to round off the discussion here, did you come to any conclusion or actions or ideas for what could the collaboration between Sweden and Japan be?
So a bit of a bigger collaboration which we now initiate. Let's hope we get some funding for that. We want to do. There are already projects, collaboration between people from Japan and Sweden, between people who do AI tech and AI law and AI and society and sustainability and business and whatsoever. But what's required or what we need are people who are educated in all of these areas. So what we want to do is now a joint PhD program where we have PhDs who have more tech focus or more society focus or law focus. And they join a joint course, and they learn at least the basic aspects, already advanced concepts, but still, one could say basic aspects.
So you have some courses in Sweden and some in Japan then?
And we want to make a joint course in Sweden and in Japan, and then we want to have collaboration in projects in this course, besides learning some stuff, to actually look into what is now the Japanese perspective? What is the Swedish perspective in this area?
But I just want to understand. So did I get it right that to some degree here we are trying to mash up or do the intersectional innovation or understanding between different disciplines?
Yes.
So we have really strong disciplines, but the problem is how do they work together?
Yes.
And actually what we are dealing with over and over again is a cross-disciplinary problem.
Exactly.
So we need to have a common language.
And you can put many researchers together who can try to speak this common language.
Yes.
But the next step is to create a new generation of researchers who know already the common language. And that's what we create.
And and I think this is super interesting, because I think this is one of the, if you go back to industry or any organization, this is the challenge.
Yes.
We have our disciplines and we have our lingo and our processes or artifacts or methods in our different disciplines, and now this is a cross-functional problem. It's an orchestration problem between the domain expertise, the problem to solve, and the technology that can solve it, and we don't speak well together.
Yes, exactly.
So this is at the core, I think.
And that's something we want to attack. We already attack in this workshop, and we discuss together and find our common language. But then we also have support from some educational company who is actually doing cross-disciplinary education and mediation between cross-disciplinary, because this is a research topic by itself. There are researchers doing exactly what you now described. Just research on how to make collaboration efficient between different stakeholders who speak different languages.
I got to know Professor Annette Kolmos at Aalborg University, and she's a professor in the, I think it's in the engineering parts of Aalborg. But her core work is understanding the future discipline of engineering needs to be even, I mean, like you can even stay within the engineering disciplines. You need to be able to work really, really well across electromechanical, computer science.
Yep.
And even here to now work in teams where the team is not a homogeneous team, but it must be a heterogeneous team.
That's even inside computer science a problem, because we have AI, we have theoretical computer science, and then we have data science, and speaking about databases. And in AI, we have actually robotics and reasoning and machine learning. and already there funding. Yeah,
but I argue in from the, if you want to drive the transformation and change to adopt AI, this is truly a fractal problem that you can find in the smallest use case all the way up to how you organize and steer a large enterprise like Scania or Vattenfall, or that we have an organizational pattern which is division of labor. And now we need to have a new organizational pattern, which is separation of concerns, but cross-disciplinary teams. Completely different setup.
Very, very interesting thought. Yeah.
And here now, to solve this, we need to break so much dogma.
Yes.
Interesting as hell.
And we need to find a lot of agile teams who maybe also can base. We did that. I was working in a company in Germany, Insiders Technologies, who had a kind of team of researchers and developers, and then they identified based on the future business cases which are coming. They did it every half a year, identifying what are the next bigger trends. They redesigned teams sometimes to have different people with different competences coming together. But there is another factor, which is a human factor. You need to adapt somehow also, with your social way, and this is difficult if you always have a change of team every half year. So they made small changes and not so big changes, because a team also works efficient when they once solve the way of how do we communicate actually with one another
inside the core team,
and build an identity, I guess, as well.
Identity, culture, and mastery in relation to the. I mean, like you can on paper have a cross-functional team that is similar to this one.
Yeah.
But we are whole humans, individuals. So each team has its individual mastery. How we really need to balance.
A very good key point. One of your questions which you had sent to me is, who will bring innovation forward? Is it the companies, the industry? Is it research? What are the different roles? Yeah. And of course, that's a question which is not new. And we had discussed that in different panels. I actually, typically once a year, I go to other countries. I go often, but to a country which is maybe a bit less developed or still in the phase of getting better in terms of research, innovation, and so on. I went to India, Pakistan, to this year to Nigeria, and also in Japan. I had these. Of course, they are not among the category, but we had these discussions as well about research, industry, who does bring the innovation forward. And then you have these arguments, industry, they have access to a lot of computation power, especially when it's a big company, then they don't mind, a few million, that's what we can put. Research, if you're lucky and get a huge grant, and that's sometimes in Europe the case, you might have it, but most researchers don't. And specifically in Sweden, we can come to that maybe later as well, but the Swedish research landscape is very fractured.
Yes.
So it's really difficult. There are not these bigger grants available. And then you struggle even with the simplest thing. There is this great language model, but how can I make use of it with my small GPU? And on the other hand, there are great minds typically in the university. And sometimes they move to Google or to other bigger companies. It's a brain
drain, right, from academia sometimes to industry.
Exactly, and then we see the innovation being moved on there, but then they are typically driven again by these goals, business goals, which is very important to move on innovation, but sometimes there are more fundamental research questions. When I was in a company, I realized I don't belong here, because whenever it becomes interesting, the business goal shifts and we go somewhere else. So I was happy to become a professor. But who is it who brings the innovation forward? Are the individuals. And that's what you just said. Yeah. So maybe a person like me who moved from university to some company and is involved in various more innovation, but also basic research societies, but also our team and the colleagues, our networks, we are those who are bringing the innovation forward, and it's important to have stakeholders from different big players, like maybe connections to Google or to other bigger companies, or at least to some strong infrastructure, and then also a connection to other strong researchers to drive the innovation forward.
So let me see if I can summarize the ideas here. I mean, for one, the question is, who's really driving innovation? Is it industry or academia? And then, as you say, people may move between them. And perhaps a better way to define it is that it's the individuals, independent of if it's academia or industry.
Yes.
The individuals, the teams, people.
Yeah. The individuals who can team up then. Yeah. Just one individual will not be the key. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, but still to linger on, and of course agree, but still, isn't there a risk that academia get increasingly flat? Sorry, to be drained out, so to speak, of talents, and that they will reduce.
At the moment, we see a risk there.
Yeah.
Yes.
But do you think, if you look like 10 years ahead, you still believe that universities will be in similar shape as they are today, and still have research and education in similar ways, or what would be your idea?
The same question was asked already. I wasn't so much active in academia in that time, but 30 years ago. Yeah. So you see always these waves.
Yeah.
You will see always the movement. Oh yeah, now there is a big, specifically in AI, there is now the big breakthrough. Yes. Everyone believes in, back in the 90s, neural network will do it. And then everyone realized, they don't do it. And then support vector machines came and so on. And there was always a drain towards industry of some people. But then others realize again, no, we need to step back, we need to rethink, we need to think deeper. And as long as the infrastructure is there, that the state is funding universities because they see the need of this independent, not too much market-driven research, but also really just doing the research for the sake of deeper understanding, we will have this university structures, and this is something. It's already there. Maybe for more than 100 years, these debates. Do we need these?
We had the last guest. We spoke a bit. Either the more engineering-driven research, more business-driven, I guess you can call it, or more basic research.
Yes.
Type of research, and I certainly can see what you mean going back and forth, but one potential change, at least in AI, is that the current type of models that we have, the large language models, are so big and need so much data and need so much money and so huge computational resources that it's really hard for a university to even work with that or research in that. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree to that part. And though, there are ways to get access by collaboration with company, and we have our connections to like Hugo La Rochelle or Tom Boyle, Google and NVIDIA, who then have hold, and they do stuff with us together. However, I don't think we have to focus so much only on NLP. NLP is at the moment a hype, and this engineering of language models. I had a discussion. Some people are really in it, and they know now the latest name of the latest model, how you call it, and so on. In terms of research, there is no novelty anymore. So I do not consider that research anymore. So I don't see a change of research. I say a change of the topic AI, NLP, which is drifting more and more towards industrial application. Yeah. And innovation, of course, many possibilities. And maybe we can, of course, still call that also applied research and so on. But the fundamental research questions are already other ones. Like, how can I actually make sustainable machine learning? Is it okay to train a language model and use more energy than 5 cars in their lifetime? Or that was actually a fact 5 years ago. We are already way beyond this energy consumption. Is that ethically okay? Shouldn't we change the way of doing machine learning? Shouldn't we go to smaller machine learning models? Shouldn't we go to better hardware, which have maybe similar power, but maybe are different than a brain? Just a fact. The human brain, how much watt does it need? What do you think?
How many neurons, you mean? Or?
No, how much watt in terms of energy?
How many watts?
Like
I've heard this. Not much. I've heard this before. I don't know the number, but it's not that much.
It's a really small number, around 2, I think. And
2
then
kilowatts or watts?
Watts. And then it could be 20. But that don't mean it's at least a factor of a giga. When you want to have a 20
10
gigawatts.
to the power of 9, basically.
Yes, 20 gigawatts. I think it's exactly 20 watts versus 20 gigawatts. if you want to have a brain-like simulation of what's processed by our brain, it's not really reached there. We are at 10% simulation and use 2 gigawatt for that. So one thing's 100% simulation of the brain will realize or need 20 gigawatts of power. And that is immense, right?
I think we should get back to this topic towards the end. I see we're never getting out of the rabbit hole here, but you are speaking about so many interesting things here. But I'll keep this topic for
definitely
the end, and let's continue that discussion between, what's the proper research going forward? What's the next step in more basic type of research in AI? I would love to hear more about that. Cool. Okay, so just to close the topic.
12 watts.
It is 12 watts. Okay, 20 was not a bad guess. So probably some brains use more 20 and some use 12.
My brain only does 1 watt.
It says 20 on the top, 12 below, so it's debatable.
Exactly.
I think you're on it. You were spot on.
With that, we haven't still welcomed you here, so we need to get into that.
We need to do this better.
Hi.
Hi. Marcus Liwicki. Very welcome to this podcast. We love to have you here. You're a professor in AI at Luleå University of Technology.
Luleå.
Sorry, that was
LTU.
an offense. In Luleå, and I've been an admirer of yours for a long time. I think the first time we met was 2019, 18 or something.
Yeah.
And I guess it was actually one of the large language model projects then, building up a Swedish language model at that time. And I still remember you came to the Peltarion office at that time, and we got right into speaking about the very deep and technical deep learning questions.
Yes.
And so awesome. And I also know you have a very interesting background, so I'd love to hear a bit more about that. If you could speak a bit more about who you are and your background, and I know you have an interesting when it comes to your supervisor, etc.
Yeah.
But please, who is Marcus Liwicki?
Yeah. Do you want the 5 minutes or the 20 minutes version?
Let's aim for the 5 minutes.
Yes.
But it probably will take 20
If you go for 5, it will be 20. If you go for 20, it will be 50.
No, I think
it's because of us.
That could be possible. So Marcus Liwicki was already, as a young person, very interested in mathematics.
Yes.
So already when I was in school, 5th, 6th grade, I participated in mathematic Olympics. I'm coming actually from East Berlin, so Olympics and mathematics was a real big thing. But when I was 8, Berlin was 1, and then I was quickly moving also to West Berlin. I was always best in school and among the best in Berlin, actually. I once was 3rd when I was in the 11th grade. So I was really sure I will study mathematics.
Right.
Then there was just half a year before the study started, there was a kind of get-to-know university thingy. And they tried to lure us, not to lure us, just to let us know how will it be if you study mathematics or also computer science. So I signed up for both of them because I was a bit unsure. And then I realized computer science is a lot of mathematics if you do a more theoretical, statistical, and machine learning thing. So I signed up for computer science with a minor in mathematics. Mathematics professors always said, Marcus, please do the major in mathematics. But I really liked the AI machine learning part. Because
so already, and that was at what year approximately?
That was, I began studying 2001. So that was, I was sure at that time I want to do computer science and actually machine learning. So I was joining this RoboCups team, but the competition was 2002 finally.
Yes.
And so I joined in that team. I was doing quite well anyways in my studies. And I realized showing what I can do is what drives me. So not just coming up with new concepts, but showing what's possible to do with it. So during my master thesis, I was super motivated. Started doing it already 2003, so I was really quick with my studies in a way. At that time, the fastest ever in Germany. And I had already within a month done everything I needed to do for my master thesis.
Really?
Wow.
And then there were 2 key-changing events in my life. The first one, a meeting with my professor, when my professor didn't show up. And I was so demotivating. There wasn't even in Germany at that time. And demotivating. I was not challenged, and I realized I always need to be challenged in order to produce. Yeah. So I became a gamer.
Really?
I had my colleagues at university, and they told me, you will never be better than us in World of Warcraft 3. It was, So I played a lot of Warcraft 3. Maybe some of you remember that game. Yeah. And I managed to beat within a month everyone at my university and went to level 30, which was among the top 100 in Germany at least. So I was really strong in that. But it didn't really bring me forward with my studies. So after 3 months, I stopped. I just decided, no, that's not what I want to do with my life, even though there would be a bit of money nowadays also in gamer. Right. But I went on with my master thesis, did even a few more things. And the second moment which changed my life was what my professor told me during my defense. So I defended. I was really proud of what I've done, and many of my colleagues, I did a system for symbol recognition. So you write some electric circuit, you draw it manually on an electric screen, and it then recognizes everything and simulates the electric circuit, how it should be done. And that was used in teaching for a while in Germany. So I was really proud what I've done. And then the teacher told me something. He said, Marcus, you did really well. And what you told me then, I will not tell you now.
Come on.
I will tell you another time when you meet me at some point, or you after the podcast. But that changed my life.
So he tells you something that sort of...
okay. I will tell you later.
Yeah. But he was like... but it was not only positive, I gather then.
So not at all, but it motivated.
You did well, so you're fine. But then he told you what he really thought.
Mm-hmm. In a way that at the end, I still got the best mark. So he was really. It was a good thing.
Good professor. From one point of view, he was good, but at the same time, he said something off the record that shook you up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it was really good for me in the long term.
Instead of talking about what he said. What became the motivation? Well, in what way did it change you? So
I really focused 100% on what I'm doing, and I then went to several places. I was looking where do I want to do my studies and so on. I don't name now any institutes, but finally I decided not for one of the big universities in the world, but I decided for Bern, University of Bern in Switzerland, where there was a research team, a real team who were working together, and I liked that family atmosphere in that team. And so I decided I will study in such a university, and I came up with a lot of publications with that team, but also with many Swiss partners. We were in a bigger Swiss project grant with more than 100 researchers involved, so really big thing, and I was happy to be part of it and driving that forward. And we led to quite a few impactful publications. And that was 2005 when I first used very deep learning. So the hype started maybe 2012, but already 2005 we did.
Perhaps you can mention some of your supervisors. Yes, or one.
Exactly. So my main supervisor was Horst Bunke in Bern, but I was also visiting Jurgen Smiths' lab for a few weeks, and some of this PhD students, Alex Graves, he came to my place, and it was a really friendly atmosphere. So we did great stuff, and we applied LSTM for handwriting recognition. At that time, beating whatever was the state of the art, but this LSTM technology is still used nowadays in many online, like speech or handwriting recognition.
And
when you want to use it.
For people that may not be super into AI, Smithuber is a very well-known or even sometimes infamous name, right?
Well-known in a way that the New York Times called him the godfather of AI. Yeah. And that's really a trademark. And he, if you have the chance not only to meet him at a conference and see what he's doing, but to really discuss and work with him, like I had, it's really valuable. I felt like I'm speaking to the Buddha of AI in a way. So he knows everything. Not everything, but he knows so much, and he has so much wisdom. So we showed him some interesting effects. A colleague today showed me these spikes, what happened when you learn the weights totally rechange and so on. And he knows, I cannot come up with all the details, but he told me why this is happening, what, and stop using always this adaptive boosting, Adam or whatsoever optimization for gradients, go for the standard SGD. Once you know what you're doing, this is better and so on. And we tried things and we realized, at least for the LSTM, that was really good. And so he really knows a lot. And this collaboration was great.
But give us a flavor. So when you're working with someone of the greatest, in what way does that impact you as a young and upcoming, still a young person, right? So he gives you direction, he gives you the wisdom. Inspiration,
wisdom, direction. So I was still a young PhD student, didn't know so much. But in the group, rather quickly was one of the best, I would say, where I really quickly realized some research results, came up with great outcomes. And then I needed always an inspiration of someone who could be an idol for me. And when I'm speaking, or at that time also when I discussed and showed what I'm doing, and sometimes putting gaps, and maybe not now because I try to speak to the general public, but when I have a scientific discussion, I hope that they are with me when I'm describing things, and sometimes not everyone catches up. And finally, Jurgen Smiths was one where I had a hard time to catch up with what him. Is he saying.
You got to feel the other side.
and that motivated me to drive even more and go. Yeah.
So your experience was mainly positive, and you were really impressed that he has a really deep knowledge.
He has a really good deep knowledge, and he is super correct. And this super correctness is something which then sometimes negatively, or quite often.
What do you mean? Can you elaborate? Super correct. What do you mean with that?
Yeah, when he writes a paper about deep learning, you should look into the deep learning history paper of Jurgen Smiths. You will see a list of more than 600, I think even 900 citations. And what he did when he had the first version ready, a draft which was actually already accepted, he sent it to all of his colleagues and said, please let me know, did I forget something? I'm also just one person,
and
so on.
That way. So correct in like an ethical way.
Yes, in an ethical way, super fair, one could say. Yes. And looking into the provenance of everything. And then you have other books coming typically from, I would say, institutes who are trying to market research a lot and to market their own brand a lot. And they are sometimes maybe even purposefully omitting some references in order to make it more appeal-like things have been even developed or originated. He wanted to
be really objective and really include the people that should be included, and some others are not. So
And then there was one of the conferences, I think it was in Europe, with a nice tutorial, and it was about GAN, and then Jurgen Smiths more or less quite early stood up saying, I'm Jurgen Smiths and I want to make a comment. And then saying, what you did there is nothing else than Minimax. GAN is like two players playing a game, each of them.
What do you think about the comment? Because he has done it not only once, like many times, saying he's the father of so many other things, including transformers and whatnot. What do you think about that type of comments that he has made?
He is exaggerating too much because he feels very much attacked when some people don't. I had this feeling rather recently. I will not go now to the details, but I had a publication in 2017 with a nice way to attack models, and others came up with some great name a bit later, but they didn't even cite my work. And that was still okay, but when then these people were in the same room with me and proudly speaking about their invention, that made me angry. I could, in that way, contain my anger and not speak much about it, but I can really feel that Jurgen Smiths feels very, very attacked in that moment when there is something going on, and he even highlighted that issue already, and it wasn't acknowledged.
If someone like, for the GAN paper or whatnot, if they were to have included citations to Jurgen, do you think he would be more happy than...
He would be for sure more happy. He would be much more content with that, because he gave feedback and comments, and it's not only his own work he is referring to. He is also referring to other researchers in the past. And then there comes always the question, should we go back and cite always Pascal for everything he has done? We don't need to overdo it. But yes, still a bit more fairness.
But sorry to linger on this. But,
yes.
He also, because obviously he's one of the greatest in AI. There's no question about that. But also when it comes to morals, I guess, he wrote some long blog posts not too long ago.
Yep.
Do you know which one?
There are several of them, but